Good evening. My name is Art Sprue. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. This is the Town of Chatham Planning Board hybrid meeting, March 23rd, 2026, and it's 4 p.m. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. I don't see anyone. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 778-378-312, hashtag, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. We'll begin with a roll call vote. Catherine Hepburn.
Present.
Warren Chain.
Present.
Bob Werschafter.
Present.
Frank Scheer.
Present.
Bob Dubus.
Present.
Charlene Greenhall is absent today, and Art Sprue, I'm present. We'll begin with the long-awaited seasonal community discussion. Gloria, welcome. Yeah. They were talking about snow later on today.
Well, do you know what I was thinking? If it were 10 degrees colder, we would have had another blizzard with the way it was raining last night. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think I'm jinxed or something. Anyway, it's nice to see you all. It's nice to finally go over this. And it actually worked out for the best because the first time I was scheduled, the final regulations weren't out. So now we have a chance to look at the regulations as they exist in the law right now. So I don't have slides or anything prepared to go over. I think my plan, my report was pretty detailed. It included, some excerpts from the law and a summary of all of the pertinent sections, so that you can get a general overview of seasonal communities and the regulations. But really, we should focus in on what does it mean for the planning board? Because a lot of this doesn't have anything to do with you. Some of it has to do with like residential tax exemption. Some of it has to do with other things. But there are definitely a few things that will be part of your purview. And a few things we talked about in the past when we were going over the West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning like a year ago. I know one of the big things that everyone was talking about was like, how do you get more year-round units? How do you do this? And at the time, I don't know if you remember, maybe this is even going back 2 years now, we really couldn't do year-round restrictions because there was no mechanism under the law to do that. And so now, by the town adopting seasonal communities at the 2025 town meeting, we are enabled to do year-round housing occupancy restrictions, which could play a part. I know, Warren, you were the one who was really like pushing for that. And I felt so bad always being the one to say, no, we can't do that. But now we can. So that's one aspect of seasonal communities that I think can really come into play as you guys work through revisions to the West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning. We can start figuring out what a mix of affordable, attainable, and now year-round units might be. And then the other two areas where seasonal communities intersects with the planning board's work is the required zoning that we have to do. So there are two requirements. Like, we got a lot of benefits by adopting seasonal communities, but we also voted to burden ourselves with two requirements. And I say burden, but it's not really a burden. So the two zoning things that we have to do to maintain our status as a seasonal community and to be able to maintain all the benefits of being a seasonal community is to establish zoning that would allow tiny homes by right, anywhere you allow a single-family home. So it's almost all the zoning districts in town. And the other zoning that you have to do is attainable housing units on undersized lots. I have some thoughts about how we can do that. I don't think it's going to be a heavy lift. I wouldn't recommend doing anything above and beyond what the regulations require. Like, if they require a 10,000 square foot lot, then and it gives the option of going smaller, we don't need to go smaller. Like, we don't need to do all of those extra things. We just need to meet the requirements under the law. And I tried to lay some of those out for you guys. But I'd like to open it up for questions. There was a lot to take in, and I'm sure that after my preliminary chat with Art, I think that there may be some general questions and maybe specific questions too, that hopefully I can answer.
The first part where you said the two required zoning pieces, you mentioned, are these two separate pieces, or are they both tied together, the tiny homes and the tiny lots? Are they completely independent of each other?
They're totally separate.
Oh, they
They're
are?
going to be two separate little zoning bylaws that are really just going to be, it's not going to be anything like West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning or ADU zoning. It's going to be really, really small, like maybe a half a page each.
Well, just for Catherine's benefit, the requirement of having tiny homes by right is one separate piece, but I'm not quite sure where that applies. And then attainable housing on undersized lots, that's another separate zoning bylaw that have to be created, and we'd have
It
to
is.
put the criteria, and as you say in there, we don't have to go underneath the 10,000 square feet, but we would need to at least have a minimum of 10,000 square feet of a lot.
So actually, it's any lot size that's below the area required in that zoning district.
Okay.
Down to 10,000 square feet.
Got it. Yeah. I just needed that clarification because the first time I was thinking that both of these were tied together, but I guess that's
They're
not.
really separate, and both of them will involve changes to the use table, right, because we have to add that. But as far as the tiny house zoning, like, there's nothing in our zoning bylaws that would prevent that now, right? Like, you can build small houses if you want. I mean, it's not profitable, which is why it doesn't happen, but, yeah, and the requirements, actually, I'm looking at my staff report now. The requirements are pretty slim for this. So you have to allow tiny homes by right in all single-family residential zoning districts. And by single-family residential zoning districts, the regulations mean any place where a single-family home is allowed by right or by special permit. So it's almost all of our zoning districts. You have to have a year-round housing occupancy restriction, but no affordable or attainable restriction. So it's not income limited. It's just limited to year-round use. Has to be a principal dwelling on the lot, must comply with state building code and local enhancements, and we can, as a town, further regulate or prohibit movable tiny homes. So you can say that in Chatham's definition of tiny homes, it does not include mobile homes.
Okay, Catherine, did you have some questions?
I do have a couple of questions. So I want to, in some sense, zero in on what action the planning board needs to take. Right now, we have 3 bylaws that are required that we're going to present at annual town meeting 2027. The ADU, that's already
That would be
completed.
that would be this year.
Oh, this year, 2026, sorry. So these we're going to aim for 2027. Okay, sorry, my mistake. So we have 2 that are required, and the year-round requirement is included in the tiny homes, but not in the small lots, is that what you're saying?
So both of them have to be year-round.
Both of them, okay, great.
They do.
So that's sort of basically done, and we don't have to think much about it in some sense. But I do have some questions. do we have certain things that we can think about? For example, design guidelines or design standards or form-based code? Would we want to introduce some standard of some aesthetic standards, or can we not? So that's one question.
So for tiny homes, actually, for both of these, I don't think that you can put design guidelines on them. The whole
Okay.
point of this is that these are as-of-right things. So if you meet these basic requirements as laid out in the seasonal communities regulations, those are going to be allowed.
Okay. And then, so in terms of these two, the planning, and correct me if I'm wrong, the planning board doesn't need to put in a lot of thinking or time on them. So what we can do is maybe, what I would suggest is maybe take a look to see how it impacts the town. You know, you're saying that it will apply in most of our zoning districts do allow single-family homes. The one place we didn't allow it was West Chatham Neighborhood Center, except for those two small lots, because we put in that clause that said, except in the case of, you know, so there were two very specific lots that fell into that. So I think for me, it would be good to see where everywhere in town, we will now be able to have tiny homes, and we'll now be able to have building, you know, homes on undersized lots. Just give us a picture of where this is going to be permitted and year-round occupancy required. That's a huge thing. I mean, that satisfies so much of what we wanted to accomplish in West Chatham. And I think maybe having digested that, then we can take a look and see how does it impact West Chatham. And of course, if we don't do anything in West Chatham, I think GB3 does allow single-family homes, actually,
By special permit.
by special permit. So people could build smaller homes in it as it is currently zoned. So we might want to take a look and just see then, I mean, then just ask the question, so now what do we need to do in West Chatham to bring it up to do everything we wish it to do, which is not just providing a diversity of housing options, but also we wanted to have that mixed use and the commercial piece and so on.
Exactly. So
Does that
how
make
did West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning land as far as single-family homes? Were they allowed by special permit, or were they
No.
actually?
No,
So
they're
then,
not allowed.
so then tiny homes would not be allowed.
Right.
In that zoning district.
We,
In that zoning district, but they are allowed as it is now.
right,
As it is now, correct, but with
Right.
new zoning,
right.
Right.
as it is.
And I just want to clarify something. We, at the very end, we noted that there are two lots that couldn't build anything that complied with the guidelines that were being established in West Chatham. They were smaller lots, and they were off the main road. Those currently, the only thing that you could possibly put on there would be a single-family home. So we established a criteria that if you were in existence before a certain date and you were under, I think it was 11,000 square feet, you were allowed to establish a single-family home on those pieces of property. That applied to two pieces of property.
So
Within it, all the rest had no criteria for single-family homes.
So I would actually run that by town council, because I don't think that you specified the parcel. No, I mean, as it relates to tiny homes, right? Because I don't think you specified the parcel and gave like an exemption to that. I think that any lot within West Chatham Neighborhood Center,
That was,
That existed at the time of the,
that pre-existed, that was.
Right.
Met those requirements. We couldn't designate those specific lots. We had to just say any lot
so, but
that
I'm
was such
wondering,
and such.
but I'm wondering if that made it so that the district allows single-family homes.
no, it did not. We already had that vetted with town council.
Well, it isn't passed yet anyway, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're just going to correct that.
So we'll actually, so that's a really good point. So we'll work on these in tandem, so that you get the West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning that you want, knowing that we also have to do tiny home zoning.
Yeah.
Well, but the small lot covers those two. So as long as we don't exclude small lots, then we can stick with the no single-family.
I'm just saying, if
I mean-
there's single-family homes that are allowed in that zoning district, then,
But not really, it's just, yeah.
but they are, right? So that, and
Just
so
on
in
those 2
general,
lots.
but they are.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say, I would like town council to see if it's actually a prohibition on single-family homes in that zoning district,
I
in
see
which
what you're
case tiny homes wouldn't be allowed. But if you allow single-family homes, even if it's only on 2 lots, then that means single-family homes are allowed in the district, and it may allow
It could
tiny
trigger
homes.
it, trigger
Yeah,
tiny
exactly.
homes
So
allowance.
that's what I mean. So we'll
I
work
see.
on these things in tandem so that we make sure that it works out the way you want it to.
And if I could just offer a point of view, in West Chatham, I would think we want to allow tiny homes, and we would want to allow the smaller lots and the year-round restrictions, but we don't want to open it up so that people could build single-family mega homes there. That's what we don't want there. Yeah.
Any other questions on this? And by all means, I mean, if there's some other things that board members have.
Sticking with this same, it's almost like the other way around, that we will ban single-family housing except on, I mean, and allow those little lots to be single-family. If we could get that wording, where it is banned, but those 2 specific lots could put a small one. That would be, that's
so-
the reverse of what we have
That's the
now.
reverse, yeah.
Yeah. We just want these,
Just,
we don't
I
want
mean,
the others.
I just want you to take that to the lawyer too.
No, I
as a-
understand
as an
that.
alternative way to
I
look at it.
understand that. And just so you know, I'm not going to go to the attorney or start any of this until after town meeting. So this is another couple months off, but I have it in my mind,
Okay.
what I need to ask him.
So,
Frank?
I'm sorry, done?
my big question is this merging, unmerging
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
of lots. Could we go over that? That's the scariest part of
Yeah.
this.
So it's not scary. It worked out in a way that I didn't anticipate for the undersized lots, and in a good way. So the merging and unmerging of lots is a different part of the Affordable Homes Act and is not part of seasonal communities. And what that did is it allowed lots that had previously merged under common ownership to be able to be unmerged, provided that they serve as like starter homes. So the homes that have to be built on there have size limits. It can only be 1,850 square feet, which is fairly small. It has to have a minimum of 3 bedrooms to encourage families. And so there are really particular circumstances in which you can use an unmerged lot. So that's totally separate from seasonal communities, and you guys have no control over that. So under seasonal communities, it actually says that you can't unmerge a lot to build an attainable house on an undersized lot. So that was one of my big concerns, that, you know, it would potentially allow people to start dividing off and creating all of these new undersized lots, but it doesn't. And you can unmerge a lot, but it's not under seasonal communities. It's under other circumstances under the Affordable Homes Act. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
I have a lot, I'm gonna cut it in up, and I can only build a big house on that? Is that what you're saying? I couldn't build an attainable house, or I couldn't build it's gotta be 3 bedrooms, you said?
But that's not under seasonal communities.
I'm just trying to figure out,
Yes, so that was, it was a little surprise in the Affordable Homes Act that no one saw coming, at least I didn't, where it does allow you to unmerge lots, provided you build a small family home with 3 or more bedrooms.
but you also, I didn't spend a lot of time, but there is a frontage requirement.
There is, and a minimum lot size.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's, again, unrelated to seasonal communities, and it has nothing to do with the zoning that the board has to
So we
work.
don't have the ability to make that rule for year-round.
I think that there's a year-round requirement for unmerged lots, too. I'd have to look back into it. I don't remember, and I don't have that section of the act in front of me.
I think Christine has something she can add
The
here.
only thing I would say to all of you, as we move forward, Gloria will do her piece of the other aspects of this. When we move forward with the zoning components of it, we'll obviously be working together and we'll be working with Katie. But we will put in a request for town council on behalf of the planning board to answer some of these questions. And one of the questions that came to me with regard to the merging and unmerging of lots is, I don't know that Chatham ever merged lots under common ownership automatically.
They-
Some cities and towns did and some
They all
didn't.
do.
Oh, they
in
all do.
Massachusetts, yeah. That was,
So-
it was at the state level. So, yeah, there's
So I know
probably.
that Dartmouth didn't. They didn't do that. But I don't know if people petitioned to not have it happen or how they
I don't,
did.
maybe it was a home rule petition, I don't know, but that
Right.
was at the state level that lots merged under common ownership. So there was actually, before this, ways to quote-unquote, like, unmerge lots. If it was like an isolated lot that was, in existence from the time the zoning was created, like, there are certain circumstances for which lots could unmerge. Or it's not that they couldn't merge, it's that they never actually merged, even though it seemed like they merged. But that's also unrelated.
Right, well,
to this.
that's what I'm getting at. There's some places that they're not. And it's not going to be a subdivision, right? It's not a subdivision of an existing large-scale lot, that somebody can just do. It becomes down to this merger piece of it, and we'll get a lot of guidance on that before we move forward. Because I think that that's going to be a potential
Well,
interesting piece to
it
us.
scares me that I've been on this for too many years, 12 at least, and we often say, well, that's an unbuildable piece of
That's correct.
property, we don't have to worry about it
Right,
anymore.
yeah.
They're all some of them are back in the game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just what I'm looking at. But it does say you can't do that and then call it an undersized lot, so I like that, okay.
Frank, you had a question?
Yeah, I too. Two questions, and one of them was this one,
Okay.
But going forward, when, we approve a division of a property and one of the lots is not buildable under the old rules, it will still not be buildable, is what we're saying. In other words, you would not be able to put a tiny home on that?
If it's,
Yeah, let's say that there's a division of property, and we say that one of the lots doesn't meet the requirements, so it's not buildable. But going forward, it will be buildable for
attainable housing.
attainable housing and for tiny homes.
Tiny homes, I don't believe you can do on undersized lots. Hold on a second. Yeah, tiny homes doesn't have, you can, it's really just tiny homes as of right on regular lots.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you can build undersized lots. Undersized lots is its own
So a
separate.
lot of Chatham is worth somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, and we're saying you can build a tiny home on it.
Yeah, I mean, you could build a tiny home now. That's what I
It will
said
never
earlier. Like,
happen.
you can already build it. It's just not profitable.
It will never happen.
I know it won't.
Okay.
So let's.
And I won't
so-
think about it anymore.
Yeah, don't worry about it. And that's going to be an easy sell, I think, at town meeting
Okay.
2027.
All right, the second question I had was really just clarification. On the bottom of your memo, but it's not, there's no pages. So it's it's the page where at the bottom it says discussion. It's like it's 3 or 4 pages in. The sections of the act that will impact the work of the planning board are the 2 requirements to put in zoning changes. But then ability, but not requirement, to do year-round occupancy restrictions that are not tied to affordable or attainable income levels. How does that ability get implemented through the zoning regulations?
So it's not a zoning change that you have to make.
Okay.
But you could do that, so there are two required zoning changes, the tiny homes and the attainable housing on undersized lots. And then the ability to do year-round restrictions, you can do through, like negotiations with developers, like if you have a developer who
I see.
comes and wants to do something, and you can write it into West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning.
I
So
see.
you can make it a part of zoning, it's just not required.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Catherine, you had some
Yeah.
follow-ups?
I think it's related to what Frank was asking. So I just want to be clear. So we get these A&Rs where they divide up their property. And I just want to be clear that if someone owns a larger lot and for some reason they want to divide it up and come to us, usually it's with an A&R, not
Yep.
so much with a subdivision. And as Frank was asking, under the old rules, one of the lots they divided into would not be buildable. Now it is buildable for attainable. So they can do that. Someone can just come to us. It wasn't an unmerged lot. It was just a bigger lot that they owned. And they want to divide it by using an A&R, for example. And previously, maybe they cut off a small piece for some reason, who knows why. And previously, we would have had to say it's not buildable, but now it would be buildable for, if it meets the requirements,
Right.
the new requirements, it would be buildable for attainable housing. Is that a correct understanding?
No, my understanding is the lots have to be in existence.
Okay.
I'm sorry, they need to be what?
In existence.
In
At the time of this zoning. So you can't start creating a bunch of undersized lots.
Okay, so then my next, I'll just make a comment to the board that we have kind of entertained the ideas in the past, especially for what we called the buffer zones and West Chatham on the east and on the west, that we might create a new zoning district in those areas that would allow for more dense residential building, and we might do something like an R10 district. So that was my next question, would something, given the new parameters we're going to be dealing with, it seems to me from what you're saying, that would still be a useful thing for the planning board to consider.
Yeah,
Okay, that was my other question. And then I have one last question. There's that other piece about the housing, I think it was the attainable housing, not so much the tiny homes, being made, giving priority to municipal employees and first responders and artists. So where does that fit into all of this, and do we need to take some action on that?
So that would not be part of zoning ever.
Okay.
So that would always be that would be more of like a program rather than a project. So if you had an individual project before you, you could say, we would like, X number of units reserved for municipal employees under seasonal communities.
Okay, all right,
But it would never be written into,
Or artists.
it would never be written into a zoning bylaw.
okay. Okay, I think those are my questions for now.
I've got two. So let's go back to this A and R. We create the two lots. The requirement you have here, lots must be smaller than minimum lot size allowed in the zoning district by at least 10,000 square feet, or 25% of the minimum lot size, whichever is greater, and that's all it says. So, yes, you can't build on it that day, but the day we create that second lot, it's now another lot. So I'm not sure how you think that we have restricted those.
So when you're doing an A&R or a subdivision,
Yeah,
you're not creating undersized lots. There might be unbuildable for some other reason, but you're not creating a lot that is smaller than it should be. I mean, it might not have the right frontage, it might not have some of those other things, but you're not creating undersized lots. An A&R doesn't allow you to do that.
okay, so you have to go to a subdivision and you subdivide it and you end up.
But you don't usually create undersized lots. I mean, so maybe sometimes we have a parcel or something if it's going to be part of a roadway or some other piece of it and we're taking out of the main lot. But And then there's usually conditions in there, but you're not ever creating undersized lots
Well,
intentionally
you haven't
going
never
forward.
before because there was no profit in it. But now, if you could take that lot and divide it into 5 10,000 square foot lots.
So
But it has to
let me
meet
go
the-
through an
it has to
example
meet the
here,
zoning.
because I'm having the same type of confusion in my head. Let's say you're in an R20 district, that's a 20,000 square foot lot, all right? Before the law was passed in here, if you're creating a subdivision there, like Hunter Rise, you're creating 20,000 square foot lots minimum to be buildable. Otherwise, it's an unbuildable portion of a land that is part of that subdivision. I guess the question is, if this law passed, and it did for this, this is for tiny lots.
No,
Does it allow a developer to come into an R20 district or R40, R60 to create not just those 20,000 square foot lots, but also a 10,000 square foot lot?
No, because your zoning requirements require a 20,000 square
Okay,
foot lot.
so because our districts say that you have to create, when you're subdividing, it has to be, for a buildable lot, you have to be X. That's what the criteria is.
Correct.
Okay.
okay.
Does that help?
Sort of.
I guarantee you we will have somebody doing it.
So I actually, maybe I'll send this to Christine or send it out to you guys. So I did a map last year for the FinCom, actually, with, because they had a question about undersized lots for seasonal communities, and they were just like, well, how many 10,000 square foot lots do we have? So we have a map that was created through GIS that shows all of the lots in Chatham, and it highlights all of the undersized lots. So everything that's under the zoning district, but at least 10,000 square feet. I also did a bunch of under 10,000 square foot lots just to see, but it doesn't matter because those aren't allowed under the seasonal communities. So I have a map showing all of those undersized lots. It's surprisingly few. Then I have another map that shows all the undersized lots in town, even the ones that have been built on. It's like 2/3 of the town. So it is. So I'll find those and I will email them to Christine, and then she can send them to you just so you have a background. So it's not, just to give you a sense, it's not going to be overwhelming to the town. And when you look at the undersized lots that are undeveloped right now, they're like kind of scattered throughout town. It's not like concentrated in any one area. Some of them are undersized and clearly not able to be built on, like they're where like sands are shifting and things like that. But it's not, it's just so few in town, especially compared to the developed undersized lots.
So let me go through another scenario. With the subdivision control law, there is dividing up property by subdivisions, but there's also the approval not required criteria. That criteria is very different than in our purview and our ability to do anything with an A&R lot.
Well, yes and no, but you can't
If they,
create a
just a minute,
lot
just a
that's
minute,
more
just a minute, let me finish, thank you. The only thing that we can verify or deny is if there was not an adequate way. If there was not an adequate way, we don't have to approve that A&R. However, they could put together any kind of lot combination with that A&R, and we still would have to sign it off if it had an adequate way. So there could be a creation of all sorts of different lots. So is there something in the law that says you can't create anything after the date of when this law went into effect?
So that's something we can put in our zoning, but also you can't create new nonconformities when you do an A&R plan.
Oh, yeah, you can. All the time they do.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
But legally you can't.
People split up lots, they give property to someone else, a small 100-square-foot property to
Then
create.
that merges with the other lot. So it's not like they're isolating an undersized lot that's going to be developed. Like if someone wants to do a lot line adjustment, it goes to like the adjacent lot. That's not creating a new nonconformity.
And that's why we have the notes on the plans and
Yeah.
things like that, when I insist on the note that it's going to be merged with such and such a thing. It's so that they can do a property transfer, but we never make a non-conforming lot. That's not, your non-conforming lots came about
Okay.
probably a lot before you even had zoning here, right?
Yeah.
You know, everything was done, and then as you built your districts, or you developed your districts, then that's when things became non-conforming.
So I had one more. I would like to get the sense of the rest of the board, but I think I'm ready to absolutely prohibit movable tiny houses.
So I was assuming that. Like, you were not going to get a draft of a tiny home bylaw that included movable homes. Don't worry about
Yeah.
that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I think we agree
So,
with that,
but,
yeah.
we don't even have to do that.
So for the board's benefit, the timeline on this that you wrote in here, that at least these first two required bylaws that have to go into effect, those would have to be in place by February 27th of 2026. So therefore, they need to be in 2027, excuse me. So therefore, we need to go, well, it's 2 years. You say 24 months, then it's 2028. So therefore, we need to go with these two bylaws in the May town meeting of 2027. Is that right? Okay.
24 months actually. Sorry about that. The 24 months actually ends before town meeting 2028.
That's right, yeah. Okay, so we're going to have quite a few things on our plate between now and May town meeting of 2027. All right, this, just so the board knows. We'll be putting all this together, Gloria, Christina, and I, and making the board aware of this and putting some sort of a plan together of how we get there. I think it's important, since these are in different parts of the law, if there's any kind of guidance or any type of criteria that we can put on here and we want to, then we should actually move forward with making that happen, to say, well, these are provisions that we think are most applicable to Chatham.
I'll also say there's a conservancy zoning bylaw that we're going to have to do next year as well.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Any other questions of Gloria on this? Go ahead, Warren.
Gloria, I've had many of my questions already answered, but you haven't talked at all about my biggest hot button, and that is year-round housing. And it does seem to me that in reading all of the information about the bylaw that we're going forward with, plus the seasonal communities, mirrored against what we already have in regulations relating to short-term rentals, there's not a consistency of definition as to what year-round housing requirements signify. It's greater than 10 months of the year, no more than, it must be in residence more, at least 10 months in the year. I've seen it as 6 months of the year. And for the short-term rental regulation, it's, greater than 30 days. I would only suggest that there ought to be a benefit to having, or at least considering, a standard definition of what we talk about year-end or year-round housing requirements. So that's my first option. My preference is the, 10 months of the year, but there's flexibility for circumstances.
So we'll have to do that, because that's how it's defined in seasonal communities. So if we're going to want to use seasonal communities to do year-round housing occupancy restrictions, we're going to have to use their definition. And I think that that's what the West Chatham Neighborhood Center
Yes.
zoning said, too.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
that it's,
Yeah.
and I think we did that knowing that this was coming along, too.
Correct. And my other question was for my own education. You have said in the past that there is no way to make year-round housing a permanent requirement. I've heard it said it can't be more than 30 years, for example. Is that literally the case, so that if we have that in West Chatham Neighborhood Center, just for example, that means that in year 31, we're going to then have our worst nightmare where everything becomes a short-term rental, and that's the end of it? Or are there ways to make it permanent, or are there ways to extend it when that period comes? Or are there ways through, while you can't have it as a deed restriction, you could accomplish somewhat the same objective by regulations, for example?
So we wouldn't be able to accomplish it by regulations, but this year on the town meeting warrant, there's a home rule petition that would allow the town of Chatham to hold attainable and year-round housing occupancy restrictions in perpetuity. So we're trying to get ahead of this and trying to,
Oh,
yeah,
That's great.
oh, amen.
I'm on it,
No more questions.
That's great. That's really great.
yeah.
Good.
I mean, it makes sense because we were enabled to do these things, attainable restrictions and year-round housing occupancy restrictions, but it didn't quite hit the particular chapter and section of Mass General Laws that allows them to be held in perpetuity. So the home rule petition is actually asking for attainable and year-round housing occupancy restrictions because there's a critical need for them, just like affordable housing restrictions, to be treated the same way and get the same benefits that other restrictions, such as affordable housing restrictions, conservation restrictions, preservation restrictions, watershed preservation restrictions, to get the same benefits that those restrictions have in being able to be held in perpetuity.
And just for the record, and I think you realize this too, but in perpetuity is important to me for the West Chatham Neighborhood Center, for the whole neighborhood center concept to work. But I certainly am not in favor of it being, in perpetuity necessarily in other parts of the town. I mean, that's another whole question, so.
Well, I mean, so this would apply to the whole town, wherever you wanted to. So if you didn't want to have it in perpetuity, you wouldn't have to. If we have the ability to hold them in perpetuity, it doesn't mean that they have to be held in perpetuity. Personally, I would like to see that because most of the time that we would end up acquiring an attainable or year-round housing occupancy restriction, it would be at public expense, right? We'd be using town funds, either through CPA funding, through affordable housing trust funds, or some other way. And to me, when you use town funds for something, I would like to see that investment remain in perpetuity.
Well, yeah, but of course, our concept in West Chatham Neighborhood Center is that developers would be given the flexibility to create additional housing, affordable, attainable, and so on, and however that shakes out. But again, that year-round housing requirement wouldn't be paid for by the town. It's just merely part of the zoning that we're putting together, so.
Right, but there are other ways that we can get them. So for instance, the town may wish to purchase year-round housing occupancy restrictions. I mean, we might put an RFP out and say, is anyone interested in selling a year-round housing occupancy restriction to the town? And we might get some takers. So Nantucket's doing that right now. And so in that case, if we were to purchase one, we would want it to be in perpetuity. And the developer, I mean, in a way, you want the developer to have it in perpetuity too, because in the particular circumstance of West Chatham and maybe other village centers after, West Chatham gets passed and you want to kind of duplicate that success, you're giving them something. It's not money, but in a way it is, because you're allowing them to develop at a greater density, right? So actually, they do have the opportunity to make more money because of the zoning incentives. So, I mean, I can make an argument for, for making that in perpetuity.
But it is going to be possible in the West Chatham Neighborhood Center to have permanent year-round housing.
So there'll be year-round housing occupancy restrictions. They will not be in perpetuity until our home rule petition gets passed.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, it's clear.
Any other questions from the board members? Oh, Catherine? Oh, Catherine and then Frank.
Or would you like to go first? I'll go after
It
that.
was a follow-up to the,
Sure.
have any other towns, to your knowledge, gotten a home rule that allows perpetuity? No? Okay.
No, I don't even know other ones that are doing this, but I anticipate other seasonal communities will be doing this
Yeah.
at subsequent town meetings. Chatham is really advanced. Like, we were the first town to do to extend that housing preference for the fishing community, like shell fishermen and fishermen. And now I know that there are other towns on the Cape that are doing home rule petitions like that. Provincetown, Wellfleet, maybe others.
There's a lot of history on perpetuities. You know, there's some, for example, that there's a rule against perpetuities, which is a legal rule. And without going through the 1,000-year history of that, any thought given to perhaps not going for perpetuity, but something less than perpetuity that might accomplish the same objective, like 99 years or?
It would, so under the Mass General laws, because like you said, there's a lot of background to this, the term of restrictions, any kind of restrictions, like homeowners association restrictions, like any restrictions, defaults to a 30-year maximum.
Right.
There are very few exceptions to that rule, and there, if you want to look this up, it's in Chapter 184, Section 31.
I've read it.
Okay, good. So, and there's like 5 different restrictions that are allowed to be held in perpetuity. So you either have the ability to hold it in perpetuity,
Yeah.
or it defaults to 30 years. There's nothing
Right.
in between.
But there is a public policy issue that has driven that law, which is there's historically it's disfavored to have perpetuity. But there are others that amount to perpetuity that have gotten through. So I'm just throwing that on the table, that we seem to be climbing a very high mountain here, and we might be able to do something that accomplishes it, pick 99 years or whatever, and then perhaps go back for perpetuity at a later time when it's more likely to be
I think it makes
agreed.
sense to do perpetuity now, because the way the home rule petition is written, it mirrors the language for affordable housing restrictions. We have a critical public need for attainable and year-round housing restrictions, just like affordable housing restrictions. We were granted the ability to do these things, and I think that it makes perfect sense to tie affordable, attainable, and year-round together in one package. And so there are ways of getting around that. Like when you talk about a 99-year restriction, a lot of times that has to do with like a land lease or something like that. So the properties would be owned by the municipality. We, lease it to a developer for, whatever it is, a nominal amount, $100 a year or something for 99 years. And then you can write something in your restrictions that say 99 years or the longest term allowed under the law or something like that. But it's not just a general ability to do these restrictions. And if we, like I said, if we're using public money to buy year-round restrictions, I think that the public would anticipate that the town would protect that investment by making it a restriction in perpetuity. I mean, we see what happened with the CHOP properties. Those were developed using public funds 40 years ago. Those restrictions have lasted 40 years. I'm not sure how that term as opposed to 30 worked, because in the 80s, I don't think we really had a good, I don't even think that there was a prohibition against perpetuity at that point. I think it was all muddled, so nobody knew. So it's 40 years. And here we are, we're at 38 years, and everyone's losing their minds that we're gonna lose those restrictions. So why would we invest town money, town tax funds, to purchase restrictions knowing that they're gonna expire in a shorter term than the CHOP properties?
Okay, Catherine?
Yes. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to circle back to the sort of the big picture, what I believe I'm hearing you say. So we've got these 2 laws that are required, that are put into place, for the one for the tiny homes and the one for the undersized lots. But based on what I'm hearing you say about how the town is currently laid out and built up, and just, that who's going to build a tiny home? It seems to me that both of those laws are going to have virtually almost zero effect on the town. Is that right or wrong?
So I think the tiny homes law will have a negligible impact, if anything at all. I think that the undersized lots, I think that it's possible that, the ones that we have in existence that are 10,000 to whatever the minimum lot size is, I think that there's a possibility that those will be developed. But like I said, when they're mapped out, it's like a smattering across
Right.
town.
Right.
And especially when you look at it compared to like all of the existing houses on undersized lots, it's just,
Right.
it's not a lot. I mean, I think that it'll be more than tiny homes, but I also think that actually, one's really funny. There's one neighborhood where one of the undersized lots is actually bigger than all of the other lots that are already built on in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I think that those could potentially be developed, but I don't think that the impact is going to be
Right.
really big.
So if I could just,
Yeah, go ahead.
so the corollary to that is, how can we use these, given our situation in Chatham, and obviously we're going to analyze it vis-à-vis West Chatham, but is there a way to use these laws so that they can impact Chatham in the way that we're wishing they could? I think one of the other points I brought up that's kind of related to this is it is still in the planning board, it's still consistent with what we want to see, to consider creating a new district that allows smaller size lots, like R10. So I'm just asking you, given the bigger picture, is there a way to utilize these new permissions and requirements in such a way that it benefits the town in the way that we'd like to see?
I mean, you can go above and beyond the limits in undersized lots. So the town would be allowed to put a lower threshold. Like, we wouldn't have to say, under the minimum lot size, down to 10,000. You could say down to 5,000 or down to 3,000 or something like that. So you could expand the possibilities that way. I mean, it's also self-limiting because you can't put a house on a 5,000 square foot lot and have a septic system. Like,
Correct.
it's going to be limited
Yes.
to areas in town where there's sewer.
Yes.
Maybe in 10 or 15 years when there's more sewer, that's when you see more of these lots being developed. You can put different setback requirements on it. Like, you can minimize the setback requirements so that if you have an undersized lot that has like a really inconvenient lot shape because it's like really narrow or something, you could reduce the setback requirement so it could potentially be developed. I mean, those are the kinds of things that you could do to create more housing opportunities.
That's my question is, it seems to me the way these are now, it's not really going to help us a lot in terms of creating more housing opportunities. So is there a way to, in a sense, exploit these to do what we want?
Frank, one more?
Yeah, okay. Building on what Catherine just said, I can't find it, but I think I read somewhere that if we don't make progress somehow under these zoning changes, we could lose seasonal designation. I can't find the exact words, but there's something like that. And following on Catherine's point, if we can make changes that allow us to make progress so we don't lose seasonal in the future, that would be great.
So I think that had to do, there are a couple ways you can lose seasonal community status. So you can not pass your zoning after a certain number of tries. But I think that the lack of progress, I think that it would have to show that over time that the zoning that you put in place wasn't allowing any development. I think that it's more likely that it's more the financial aspect of development that's going to make this difficult. It's not going to be your zoning.
Is it
that's
in
gonna
your memo?
prevent
Is it in your memo somewhere about how you can lose it? And
Do you know, it might be in the
I thought you did
table.
have something on that, yes.
because the words are that you have to make some progress. And what I'm hearing is that we might not.
Okay, in the table.
It's
let's
not
see.
that nothing can happen. I mean, we need to make progress.
Okay, so the EOHLC may revoke a municipality's designation if that municipality fails to adopt the zoning
Yep.
in line with the requirements, Fails to meaningfully permit new residential units under zoning requirements. I guess that's it. Or no longer exhibits the characteristics that result in the designation. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, so we have to, it
So-
has to be meaningful, I guess, is the,
So that's a tricky thing, and I think that we could, if we don't have a ton of units developed, I think that like a real simple pro forma for construction costs and sale prices would go a long way in showing the EOHLC that it really, it's not necessarily the zoning that's preventing this, it's just the cost of construction and, you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah. And if I could just follow up, so say we bring these before annual town meeting 2027 and they don't pass, how does that work?
So we can get a waiver under here for, I mean, I would probably ask for like a waiver of a year or something and then go back and try to get it passed. And then
Yeah.
I guess ultimately after multiple attempts, if it doesn't pass, I guess they could revoke it. I think it would be a bad deal for the town not to approve it and for us to get a revocation of our designation, because we get so much more out of it than we have to give. It's almost like you said, like, how many tiny homes are going to be built? Well, how many tiny homes are built now? None. So I don't know if this is going to help that at all. Maybe we'll get one.
There's one clarification that Christine had brought up at the ADU when that was being presented to Select Board and the Finance Committee. In this particular case, I think you said that we only needed a simple majority to pass the ADU. Would any of those type of things apply to these bylaws in the seasonal community piece?
I don't think so. I think it's still 2/3. And so how is it? Is it in the
has to do with
regulations?
It has to do with housing. We had received that clarification from town council,
Is it housing or affordable housing?
maybe affordable housing.
So how does that work with the ADUs?
Yeah.
He
So I don't-
said that that's what we have to have because of some regulation, so I assumed it had to do with the Affordable Homes Act. So I'm anticipating
So
that maybe he's
even-
going to say the same thing with
So
regard to tiny homes.
Even
and-
before the Affordable Homes Act, there was the ability to pass zoning if it was all about affordable housing with just a simple majority.
Right.
So neither of these zoning requirements are about affordable housing at all. It's
Right.
about attainable
maybe.
and it's about
Okay.
year-round.
Okay.
But that makes me wonder about ADUs, because that's also not about affordable housing.
It's not, right, yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe there's
We
something.
asked the question a couple of different ways, and
Yeah.
then even the town manager asked the question, so that's the guidance we had gotten. I'm-
Maybe there's something in the act about the ADU bylaw that it only needs.
Yeah, because that's
So we'll
separate from
ask this-
seasonal community.
We'll ask the same question with regard to this one.
Okay.
Going forward.
So just a quick clarification, progress, going back to the progress, we have to have progress on both of these to maintain our seasonal, or we just have to have progress on the one of them? Because a small lot, we're going to get a couple small
I
lots.
think we will too. I think we will too. Especially if it's like.
We have to build a small unit just to keep our designation. That's going to be the first thing we
That would-
recommend.
That would be tricky. So I don't have an answer for that. I would like to think that they would be flexible, especially if we, maybe we go down to 8,000 square feet instead of 10,000, so we can actually show the state that we're, trying to make it easier or something. I don't know.
It's going to be hard to get a three-bedroom house on.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
For an attainable house on an undersized lot. That's for an unmerged lot.
Oh, that's
Under
only for
a
an-
non-seasonal.
Oh, okay, so, okay.
All right. Are we ready to move on or no?
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah, oh, okay, one last question.
I just want to be sure I'm clear on the tiny homes. So if there are two separate things, there's undersized lots, and then there's tiny homes. So what we're saying is that what this gives us is the ability to build a tiny home on a regular-sized lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, which is almost a waste when you think about it.
Right,
really daft, if you don't mind my saying so.
okay.
It
Bob,
doesn't
you
make
actually have a question, okay, good, go for it.
Frankly, we're looking at the tiny home.
Yeah, is your push big?
The tiny home has to be the prevalent home on the lot,
The principal dwelling, yes.
okay? So what happens if you have a lot and you want to put an ADU on it?
I think you can put an ADU on it.
Which
Is
is
that
bigger
right?
than the natural home.
No, it can't.
Which is bigger than a tiny home.
No, the ADU is, by
Right.
definition, cannot be more than 50% of the,
Well, it would have to be a really small ADU.
That was just the thing that.
Yeah.
it's like,
Okay.
But there's nothing to prevent ADUs from going on the lot, yeah.
there we got the answer.
All right. Are we
like
ready
little
to move
hobbit
on?
homes.
Okay. Let's move on to our regular business. Gloria, thank you very much.
You're
I'm sure
welcome.
we're going to have
Thank you
you
very
come
much.
back for some more, though.
I'm sure, and especially once we start that zoning, maybe this summer, we'll have a first draft for you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the minutes from March 9th, 2026. There's 3 board members that need to abstain from that, and Charlene's not here, so we're going to move that to a future meeting for approval. So that moves on to site plan approval, amended change of use for 631 Main Street. Yes, Mr. Riley, you,
Since I filed this, I just recently received a full set of plans, so let me pass them out even though they're late.
no, we have them.
No,
Yep.
he's saying he's got something different.
Something different?
It's not much different.
Is it 631 or is it 361?
631.
31, okay.
Okay.
I think the principal difference is they show the shrub they're going to put at the corner
shrubbery,
of the
yeah.
store.
I saw that, yeah.
Because there's not a lot of land here. And what I filed with you shows the color of the facade, the new facade of the store. And, that's the principal change, really.
Do you want to say anything further about?
Well, we're here because it's a formula business,
Okay,
and we already have one down the street. I don't know why.
yep. I get it. So let me just read some of the comments that came from interdepartmental and committees.
Sure.
DPW Director, the bottom of the new blade sign shall be no less than 7 feet above the surface of the sidewalk. Another DPW comment, the property is currently allowed 151 gallons per day for sewer flow, or the equivalent of 3,015 square feet of retail, as long as it remains as a retail store. They do not need to ask for any additional flow. The Historic Business District Commission has issued a certificate of appropriateness on December 17th, 2025 for renovation of the front facade. The applicant is scheduled to be heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals on March 26th per the above referenced special permit requirements, and requirements stemming from the property being within the floodplain overlay are being addressed with the building commissioner. So what I want to just comment to the board on, if I recall, this this property, this lot, is part of a larger piece that came before us before. It was all, it included the parking and everything else as a single submission. And then these were individual lots that had separate uses that were on them. That plan was approved a while ago. There's been several changes that have occurred with change of use in that. However, the criteria didn't change any, so there wasn't any really issues unless there was a significant change in the use that created, say, a parking issue or something like that. So that's just to give you a heads up. We didn't deal with any of the other elements that were previously approved, stormwater requirements and all of that, because they were all met and from that previous larger submission. So, but if the board members have any comments or questions, Mr. Riley, on this?
Well, also, I just want to say that the professional engineer, Danielle Danzing, I believe is online.
Hi, this is actually Elizabeth Roach. I work with Danielle. She is on the road actually going to a different public hearing tonight, so I am on from Kimley Horn.
So Elizabeth is a professional engineer who created the plans that you're looking at now. So if you have any questions for her.
Okay. Catherine, why don't you begin?
I have a couple of questions. So this is Lily Pulitzer. It's a formula business, but there's another Lily Pulitzer down the street. Are they maintaining both locations now on Main Street, or are they moving the location that's further down on Main Street to
I have
this
to
new
tell you.
location?
The marketing people did not consult me on that question. I believe, though, they're just going to move here.
They're just moving, so they're not actually going to maintain two locations
I believe
on our
so,
Main
yeah.
Street. So my second question is, it's true it's retail, so everything should remain the same, but I get the impression, especially during summer, that there were a lot fewer employees at Ben Franklin than there are at Lily Pulitzer. So parking does depend on number of employees. We need to factor that into the retail as well as floor square footage. So I think we need to know the number of employees.
I
At
don't have
Lily.
that, and I'll have to get it for you. I mean,
Okay, because that affects our
you see,
parking
I
calculation.
understand, but if you look at the plan,
Yeah,
you can see there's no room for parking
yeah.
at all.
No, but the board,
So they could have 100 employees or two, doesn't matter. There's no parking on this property. They park in the main lot to the rear, like everybody else. So,
Bob?
I have to agree with Bill on this. The Ben Franklin stores have been there ever since before me. And there's no way that you can have any parking in that area.
Yep.
It's always been, they find a place to park, usually way in the back, or they find it somewhere else, or they bicycle or whatever. But I don't see how any parking can be there. Maybe one or two cars there for a while, but they have deliveries there. They've been there forever and ever and ever, and never a problem. And the Ben Franklin at sometimes was quite the unique store. And in the later years, they've slacked off a lot, which is with like every other 5 and 10 store, they couldn't make it because of the box stores. So I am in favor of not even thinking about the parking or how many people work there. I'm absolutely ecstatic that somebody's taken this building and putting it back to good use. And I think the clothing the clothing store is a perfect thing for that, because they won't have that many trucks coming in and out of there. With the 5 and 10, they had all kinds of different things, so it was always a constant truck after truck after truck after truck. To me, that the clothing store, they would come in at a certain time. At least I'm assuming, Bill. I don't think you know that either, do you?
well, no, but I know that what they were, part of the difficulty with this property is that it's in the floodplain. The back half of the building's in the floodplain. And and as luck would have it, the basement floor inside the building is actually a foot or so below the level of the parking lot outside. So that creates, Well, that creates a serious flood problem. I think the likelihood of a flood water ever being there is something that's going to have to happen long after all of us are long gone. But so they're going to end up, to have usable space in the basement, they have to flood-proof the basement, which is a huge deal. And they're negotiating that with the seller, so that deliveries will be made to the back of the building through the parking lot, because they'll be using the basement for storage of materials. And then, so there won't be the FedEx truck or the, whatever that truck they always parking on the street. But, and and there may be 4 employees on a shift instead of 2, but
Well,
not gonna
I'm
be
going to
10.
say, the 4 employees that used to work down the street are now working here.
Here, yeah,
So I'm less concerned about this than.
yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions of Mr. Riley? Okay, I don't have any others either. I guess a possible motion is to approve the site plan review application with conditions for the proposal for the formula business establishment, because the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the protective zoning bylaw and as the conditions that are outlined in comments by Christine.
So I would just add that you should probably add a condition for the 151 gallons, the thing from the DPW.
sorry, I can't hear you,
department.
Christine.
I said the only thing I would add was, based on the comment received from the DPW about the 151 gallons. So that's on the top of, I would just add that to the bottom, just as a reassurance or whatever, but that would be it. It was at the second page of the memo that you received from us. It's the second
Yeah.
item down.
Well, again, that would be a DPW thing. We generally don't get into
Okay.
that
then that's-
criteria.
That's fine.
So I would leave that off.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to turn your phone.
Frank and I both think that the gallonage should stay the same. I mean,
It would,
Right.
and we generally don't have purview over that anyways,
Okay.
the Board
So
of
you
Health
don't have
and
to
the
put it, I was
DPW.
just saying that you
Okay.
should.
Well, if we,
And then the only other thing I would say for tonight is I would do one thing for the amendment, and then I would give a second thing just to have me forward your statement of conditions to the ZBA, because they asked for a referral on this property for their records.
that's normally we do it twice. We
Yeah.
do one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
with,
you would make a recommendation.
Yeah, so I noted something. Do I have a motion for that approval?
The proposed flood proofing is not in our purview, or?
That would be the building commissioner, because it's a building-related item.
yeah, so I just
The
wanted,
chair can make a motion.
Well,
I think you just did.
Oh, I can?
Yes, you can.
All right. I wasn't sure if I could.
well, I just,
Make a motion?
Yes, I
yeah,
just
Ms.
did.
I'll second the motion.
just before you vote, I mean, there shouldn't be anything in here in your decision about the sewage flow, because that's something we deal with.
Yeah,
Correct. I took that out.
Okay, great, perfect.
so it
All right,
stands.
good.
All right.
So we're trying to work with you on this one, okay?
I appreciate it, Bob.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. So we have a motion and a second now, all right? Roll call vote. Catherine Halpern,
Approve.
Warren Chain,
Approve.
Bob Werschafter,
Approved.
Frank Shear,
Approve.
Bob Dubus,
Approve.
and Art Spru, I approve.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So this will also go as our recommendation to the zoning board of appeals then, because they were looking for that from us, so we'll give them that.
Too, or?
Is that something? Yeah, okay, so we should have a separate motion and vote for our recommendations to the zoning board of appeals.
I'd like to send a positive note to the Board of Appeals.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Catherine?
Approve.
Warren?
Approve.
Bob Werschafter?
Approved.
Frank?
Approve.
Bob?
Approve.
And Art Spur, I approve.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
All right, next item is a discussion item, proposed application for site plan approval. It's 39 George Ryder Road. Do I have anybody here from the applicant? And if you could state your name for the record, please.
My name is Ed Sebring. I live in a teeny house in West Chatham. And if you allow me, I'll be able to walk to work from my teeny house in West Chatham to the store at 39 George Ryder Road. The teeny house was built in 1940, and I love it.
So what are we doing here? This is just a discussion.
Yeah, do you have a question for us? Because we don't really have information that we can react to or make a decision on or vote on tonight. Yeah,
So I would just want to give you all an update. I know that Mr. Sebring has been trying to bring forward his
This has been
application.
going on since November,
Right.
Right.
But we don't have a complete application as part of the problem.
right?
As a result of you asking me the questions and about having some type of a discussion so that we could get this to move forward, I did confirm with David Clark, he is working on a site plan. So what I would say to you now, based on the information I have from him, when we get the site plan, then we consider the application complete, and then we can move forward and put you on an agenda. So he is working on a final site plan for us now. Part of the problem is we don't have any information with regard to any of the businesses that have gone forward, but we're trying to help to bring this to completion so we could move
Right.
forward.
This particular piece of property has never had an application on file with the planning board.
And I'm still getting mail from 6 of the previous people that used that building. A year and a half later, I'm getting 6 different companies that use that address.
Okay, so my recommendation is once David has that existing condition plan, have him reach out to Christine, go over elements of what we think are going to be important to have included on that, and then you can reapply.
Okay?
He's already got his application in. We're just trying to finalize it. We already have the paperwork, we already have payment, we just don't have the plan. So we need the plan in order to move forward. We're almost there now, is what I would tell you, so.
And then we'll put you on our agenda in the near future.
Do you have any questions about what I'm trying to do there, or?
We can't ask questions because we don't have the site plan.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, and we have site plan review criteria, and I'm
Yep.
sure Christine will make sure that we have all that information when she gets the site plan from the engineer.
Yeah, so generally, the pieces that we have, we focus on the site only, not the building, but we use information that's in the building if there's any criteria we need to estimate the number of parking places for the site. David can help you out with that. He's very familiar with that whole process.
Okay, so we need that to be able to move forward.
That's correct. So he'll ask you for information on your floor plan and, you know, how much square footage of retail and all that, so that he can determine the number of parking spaces that are required. Your piece of property has a lot of flexibility there, so I'm sure he's going to be able to come up with something to help you out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I think there's correspondence you want to comment on, Christine?
So yes, just quickly, a couple of things. Your planning board schedule for the year had May 11th on it as a meeting before the select board chose to have that for annual town meeting. So we are looking at a couple of other dates to see what's available, because otherwise we have no meeting in May, and that could potentially be a problem. We can always cancel, but it's better to have something to start with if we need it. So I'm working with the town manager's office on that. The other thing I would say to you is that the town manager's office had put out something from the National Weather Service. It's called Skywarn, and it's for storm spotter training, so to just get some information on how to, with all of the intense storms that we're getting now. So they actually are going to hold a conference here or of a night of information if anybody's interested. So that is April 29th. It's a Wednesday night, and it's from 6 to 8. It's at the community center. And the reason I want to point it out to you is because the town is now doing their hazard mitigation plan and a couple of other things. So we're trying to do some additional research, outreach, I should say. So we're kind of moving ahead with that. And then for anybody who is interested, on the Cape Cod Bridges thing, the Mass DOT put out something with regard to some of the final state environmental review document. So that is available online. So if anybody wants I wouldn't necessarily, unless you're really into it, read the whole
it's a
thing.
big
But
document.
there's a good summary usually on construction and timeline. So if anybody wants to leave the Cape at any point in over the next 10 years or so, you might want to look at that. So that was in your packet as well. And then, and if anybody wants to give comment on that, they can give that to the state through April 10th. Your next meeting is April 13th. We've got some meetings shifting and stuff like that because of Patriot Day and because of some of the other holidays coming forward. So just wanted to remind you, April 13th. And then again, that town meeting, we're going to need all of you for the ADU thing for May 11th.
Okay, if there's no other points of discussion, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
A second?
Let's do a roll call vote. Catherine?
Approve?
Warren?
Approve.
Bob?
Approved.
Frank?
Approve.
Bob?
Approve.
And Art Spru, I approve, and the time is 5:20 PM. 5:21.
Go and have dinner.